Each of the 8 selectable stages in the Mega Man series ends with fighting one of the Robot Masters. Most of these Robot Masters are cool or interesting or both, but some not so much. Typically, I am averse to picking favorites or ranking art, but maybe I could manage it under the following basic rubric. No debate, only vibes. My name is Ira Kreisman. I am one half of the Everything is Final Fantasy podcast, and these are my rankings of the Mega Man Robot Masters. I am including the Robot Masters from the numbered games, from the Mega Man 1 remake, Mega Man Powered Up, and from Mega Man and Bass, but none of the others. What's my justification for that? See the rubric. No debate, only vibes. All that said, we've got to start outside the rankings because first, we need to talk about Oil Man. Oil Man is one of 2 Robot Masters added to the original Mega Man title for the remake, Mega Man Powered Up. And while I'm fine with a new Robot Master for an updated game, and I really like the concept of a maintenance worker robot because it fits so well with all the other working robots of Mega Man 1, we cannot ignore the fact that this character's design strongly parallels a racist caricature. With black skin and large pale lips, he looks like he's in blackface, an anti-black caricature and stereotype perpetuated throughout much of the last century. While the black skin was changed to blue for international release, it's still a shameful design. So, while I like the concept of the character, I do not feel comfortable including him in the rankings. But also, I couldn't not talk about him. Now for the bottom of the list. The Robot Masters I just don't vibe with. Bright Man is an anthropomorphic light bulb, and he just looks so delicate. I'm worried that if I shake him too hard, he'll break, that I'm going to have to inexplicably replace him in a few months. I find this design silly and not in a good way. Pump Man is an anthropomorphic pump. What? Why? A pump is a mechanical device for moving water. Why is an ancient technology, the pump, better than any futuristic technology for redirecting water? I like that he's a working robot who can purify water, but why is he a pump? It makes no sense. The wiki says Spring Man is made of over 2,000 springs. How? Looking at him, I see 1 for each arm, 1 for each leg, 1 for the torso, 1 for his neck, and 1 on his head. That's 7. And he cannot control his springiness, so he's always smashing himself into the ceiling. Time Man. I don't dislike Time Man just because he's one of the 2 add-ons for the remake of Mega Man 1. I dislike him because he doesn't fit the theme. The 6 originals were all blue-collar working robots, and so is Oil Man, but Time Man was built for time travel experiments. He just doesn't fit the vibe of the other Robot Masters. And remember, this is all about vibes. From the tier I actively dislike to the tier that's just kind of Blizzard Man is a skiing robot with a robotic Santa hat. He attacks with snowflakes and a spinning attack. First Pump Man, now Aquaman. What is it with water-themed robots being based upon antiquated technology in Mega Man's futuristic timeline? Why is Aquaman an anthropomorphic water tank? Plug Man is modeled after an outlet plug and can generate electricity. Other electric robot masters just do it better. Dust Man is an anthropomorphic vacuum cleaner. And don't get me wrong, I like a good vacuum cleaner. That's where I am in my life. And I like the idea of a sanitation robot. But the suction hose is on top of his head instead of his hands. That's just unfortunately awkward. Doesn't he get gunk in his eyes? Hard Man. Hard Man is heavy, slow, and durable, and he's just kind of boring. He fires his fists as weapons and uses a rocket booster to leap into the air and try to use his weight to crush his foes. Not bad, just Needle Man is a peculiar shape. He's got no head. His face is on his torso and there's a bunch of needles where his head would be, and I like it when characters in a large roster do things differently than the rest, but Needle Man is just awkward. Galaxy Man reminds me of Gigabolt Manowar, or perhaps vice versa. He's a flying saucer-themed robot who's a rocket scientist. He can create miniature black holes. He's fine. Stone Man's external armor, made of stones, is constantly falling apart. Why is this robot constantly falling apart? Blade Man has swords for hands. Awesome, if impractical. He's also got a sword blade on his head. I imagine that makes walking through doorways a chore. I love the idea of a sword-based robot master, but this design makes no sense. Another robot master does it better. Chill Man is a basic ice robot master, except he's got a weird, awkward ice crystal over his head. Starman is fine, but that star-shaped chest piece is awkwardly placed, especially that lower ray. He looks like he can't walk without his thighs rubbing against it, and that seems extraordinarily uncomfortable. That Bowie song is pretty cool though. From the tier of meh to the middle tier of solid designs, strong players, good vibes. I tend not to have a lot to say about these guys because they're not amazing, just solid. Tornado Man is an air-themed robot in a long line of air-themed robots. He's fine. Heat Man. I've got a lot of nostalgia for Mega Man 2. It was my first Mega Man game, and I always felt bad for Heat Man because he's got such an odd, boxy design. It's effective armor, I suppose, but why does he look like that? Is it meant to make him look like a Zippo lighter? That said, his weapon is the first Mega Man can charge up, so that's pretty cool. Or hot. Astro Man worked at the planetarium before being reprogrammed. He's got a spherical lower body, which is an interesting departure. Cloud Man's got an awkward design, but I think it works for him. Why? Vibes. I like that he generates a cloud on which to fly and generates lightning to zap his foes. Airman is shaped like Needle Man, with his face on his torso and no head. He's an anthropomorphic fan who can generate big gusts of wind. Sure. Strike Man is baseball themed, which I love, but he's meant to be a pitcher and he's built like a baseball. Pitchers are long and lanky, not short and spherical, so on the one hand, his awkward shape belies the theme. On the other, he's a baseball guy, and I like baseball guys, so I put him lower middle. Plant Man is nowhere near as cool as Axel the Red, but he's not bad, and I do like flowers. Hornet Man is an anthropomorphic honeycomb who works managing a garden and pollinating flowers. I feel like he and Plant Man should be a couple. Maybe there's already fan fiction? Of course there is. I don't even have to check. He can create and control robotic Hornet drones. Yeah, fine. Fair enough. Napalm Man is a warbot designed to blow things up. He's got missile launchers at the end of each arm, along each shoulder, and atop his head. Also, his feet are tank treads for some reason. Windman is another air robot, but this time with fans on his shoulders. It is fine. Charge Man is kind of an anthropomorphic train. That makes little to no sense, but I really like trains, which bumps him up the list. Magma Man is another headless robot with a face on his torso. His design works better than Needle Man. Why? Just vibes. I like that he's kind of volcano-shaped and magma erupts from his head and shoulders. Jewel Man really leans into the theme, which I like. He's got pink gemstones all along his white mantle, on the backs of his hands, and along his belt. He's got a big, spiked pink gem atop his head like a helmet. It's a solid design. Spark Man has a pair of electrodes on the ends of his arms and looks like an anthropomorphic spark plug. That's kind of neat. Cold Man sort of looks like an icebox. Is he meant to be an anthropomorphic freezer? Drill Man is just what I'd expect. Drills on his hands, a drill on his head. I just feel like Ground Man does it better. Commando Man has a weird boxy design, which is fine. He's a soldier robot. Also fine. Frost Man and Frost Walrus look like they were built with the same basic schematics. Frost Man isn't as big or spiky, but he's a big ice guy, and sometimes that's enough. Crystal Man has a nice, solid, but basic design. He's not awkward, but he's not real interesting either. He's got a smooth, round, crystal ball-like theming, and he's interested in illusion and fortune-telling. Bomb Man is probably only this high up on the list because of nostalgia. I do like that he's a working robot specializing in explosives for all manner of industrial purposes. Concrete Man is another construction robot. He specializes in concrete. Solid design. Impact Man is another construction robot. He specializes in pile driving. Solid design. Freeze Man is an ice-themed robot with icy theming. Solid design. Bounce Man, who I like way better than Spring Man, is a bouncy ball robot. He uses bouncy balls as weapons and is shaped like one, and is a carefree robot who sees this all as a game. Dive Man is a submarine-themed robot with an unnecessary periscope on top of his head. He can fire torpedoes and ram foes. Fair enough. Burst Man is a peculiar combination of bomb and bubble robot. He likes festivals and setting off fireworks. He seems like a chill dude. In combat, he uses his bubbles to encase his foes or to deliver his explosives. He's kind of weird, but a good weird. Flame Man is a fire robot wearing a turban. I don't know why he's wearing a turban, but it's got a nice design and solid theming. Top Man is an odd, awkward concept that I nonetheless really like, so I put him in the middle. High middle. He's like a Beyblade. I'm too old to have become obsessed with Beyblades, and Top Man predates them by quite a bit. I guess there's something potentially badass, if unpredictable, about Tops. Block Man is another construction robot with a high strength and the ability to conjure stone blocks to attack his foes. What I really like about this guy is that he can also cover his body in more stone blocks to build himself a giant body. Blast Man has a sort of crown off the back of his head that looks like an explosion. Like Burst Man, he's interested in fireworks. He works as a pyrotechnics expert on movie sets. Ring Man is a combat robot who creates and wields ring boomerangs. Kind of like Chakram. I always thought he was meant to have an Indian influence on his design, since Chakram originated on the Indian subcontinent. He's simple, solid, and pretty neat all around. I don't know why a robot needs a breathing mask, but otherwise Wave Man is a solid design. He's got excellent mobility underwater and can fire harpoons from his arm cannon. Dynamo Man has a couple generators on his shoulders and seems to be wearing a big, clunky suit. Is that suit meant to insulate him from his own electricity? Flash Man's blue and yellow color scheme and simple but different design has always appealed to me. Also, he was manipulating time long before Time Man was even an idea. Gravity Man's design is fine enough, but what I like about this guy is how he's constantly changing gravity, tossing his foe into the ceiling and disorienting them so he can take pot shots. Gyro Man is a simple, solid design. He's got a propeller on his back, which he can use to fly, like an anthropomorphic helicopter. Iceman is the original ice robot master. He was built to work in cold climates. I've always liked his cute parka juxtaposed against his deadly ice blades. Burner Man is kind of intense. He's got blowtorches on his wrists, at the end of each finger, and atop his head. He looks awesome. Dangerous, but awesome. Moving on from the solid players to the high tier, let's start with Toadman is an early version of the anthropomorphic animals that the Mavericks would be. Toads aren't especially intimidating, but they are kind of cute, and Toadman is an agricultural worker who can make it rain. I love the rain. An anthropomorphic hand grenade, Grenade Man is a typical bomb-themed robot master. It's his attitude, being excited both to inflict and receive pain, that makes him interesting. Intense, maybe a little awkward, but interesting. Solar Man can generate intense solar energy above his head and fire it at his foes. That's pretty neat. With a cohesive character design in shades of orange and a crown atop his head, Solar Man has an excellent design. I'm not sure why Bubble Man wears a scuba mask. I shouldn't think he'd need to breathe. Even so, I love the frog soldier motif he's got. His weapon is the Bubble Lead, which just seems to be weaponized bubbles. I don't know how that works, but this robot master benefits from nostalgia. I like his vibe. Elecman is the original electric robot master. While later electric robots might have flashier designs or more complex powers, Elecman holds up. Searchman is a combat bot modeled after a camouflaged soldier. He functions as a sniper and an ambusher. He's got a giant cannon on one arm and he's got 2 heads. I like that he's got 2 heads. Woodman, a robot made from wood. Kind of. It's such an odd concept, I cannot help but love it. Also, this is the first robot master that summons objects to spin around him, creating a shield, which is a concept I've been enamored with ever since. Shademan, like Dark Necrobat, is a vampire-themed robot who can drain the life force from his foes. He was designed to be part of a theme park and has a flair for the dramatic. I like that he bows to his foe before combat. I like his paralyzing stare and his signature noise crush. I like his whole vibe. Ground Man can transform into a drill tank. I like robots that can transform. He's a construction bot, which I also like. All the drills, 1 on each shoulder, 1 on each foot, 3 on his head, is a bit much, but transforming into a drill tank makes it all make sense. Fuse Man has a pair of fuses sticking up from his helmet. It could look awkward, but I think it works. Why? No debate, only vibes. I love how this guy teleports around the stage on lines of electricity and fills the screen with balls of lightning. Nitro Man can transform into a motorcycle. And, as I just said with Ground Man, I like the guys who can transform. He's a lot like Ride Borsky from the X series, or Borsky is like Nitro. He zips around the stage in motorcycle form, riding up the walls and throwing bladed wheels at his foes. Magic Man is a stage performer. He's an illusionist who wields a cane and fires playing cards that siphon a foe's energy. I love stage magic, and I love this guy's commitment to the bit. A strong showing all around. Gutsman isn't just a big, strong construction robot. He's the big, strong construction robot. He tosses boulders at his foes, and in some games is rebuilt into a bulldozer or a tank. I think I've made it clear that I like the working robots. Junkman. I like that he's got a cobbled together aesthetic, kind of a Frankenstein's robot master. He looks like a guy who could get injured or broken and just rebuild himself. Swordman was built specifically to wield an ancient sword Dr. Wily stole from a museum. I like that he's essentially got 2 bodies, his upper torso with his arms and head, and his lower torso and legs. He was designed this way with an anti-gravity stabilization device because the sword was too heavy. It's a creative idea if inconsistent with the rest of the robot masters. Why couldn't he just have been built stronger? I do wish we knew more about the sword. Is it just an old hunk of sharpened metal? Are those markings magical? Technological? Why does Swordman's sword have fire powers? Despite my nitpicking, I really like Swordman. I like Magnet Man at least as much because he reminds me of Magneto of the X-Men as anything else. He's got the expected magnet-themed powers and has a simple, solid design. He fires magnet missiles that can home in on metallic foes and can manipulate the battlefield by drawing or pushing metallic objects within his range. A clean concept, masterfully executed. Tengu Man is based upon the Japanese yokai of the same name. He's got a winged jetpack and a triple-bladed fan. He can also create typhoons. He's a perfect blend of peculiar and badass, strange and sleek, mythic and modern. Turbo Man is an anthropomorphic race car, which is neat. He can transform into a race car, which I like, and he's a speedster, which I also like. I like to imagine Turbo Man and Nitro Man racing along city streets together. Sounds like another pairing in fanfic heaven. Acid Man reminds me of that middle school kid who had a leather jacket and an earring. He wasn't mean, just dangerous. Built to be a chemist robot and corrupted into a mad scientist by Wily, Acid Man both attacks and defends with acid. Plus he's purple and green. I love purple and green. Torchman is an outdoor enthusiast who practices martial arts to keep his flames under control. What a cool personality for a robot master. It's the personality that elevates Torchman, who otherwise would just be another fire robot in a long line of fire robots. Now onto the tier that sings in my soul, that distills a theme. The robot masters who may very well be my favorites. Sheepman. Yes, Sheepman. I know he's an anthropomorphic sheep, and the animal-based robots are more from X's era, but Sheepman was just ahead of his time. He's also got electricity-based powers, which makes perfect sense. Furthermore, he has got to be a reference to the Philip K. Dick novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? That alone makes him A tier. I really like the robot masters that aren't just another version of an element bot. Not that there's anything wrong with the element bots, but they can become a bit samey-same. To that point, we've got Clownman. Clownman is a mischievous bot in bright colors and distracting pom-poms. Classic clown stuff. His arms extend, allowing him to attack from a distance and to swing about the stage like a trapeze artist. He's almost like a Final Fantasy job if Final Fantasy had a clown job, Moogle jugglers notwithstanding. His lightning claws are almost unnecessary. Tundra Man should probably be named something else. He's got little to nothing to do with the biome for which he's named, but other than that, he's awesome. He's an ice skater with flair, presentation, and a long ponytail made of ice. He takes just another element bot and makes it something special. Pirate Man is the only pirate I've ever seen with a white and pink color scheme, and he makes it work. He's got a cannon on one arm and a pincher claw on the other. I imagine that makes drinking rum difficult. Flooding the room, shielding himself in a bubble, and launching mines, Pirate Man is a ruthless foe. Centaur Man is another precursor to the anthropomorphic animal warriors of Mega Man X. A humanoid torso upon an equine body, he's such a departure from what I had come to expect of robot masters at the time, but he's exactly what I would expect from a centaur. Resilient and agile, Centaur Man has the ability to teleport and to distort time. He's not an archer, which really would have completed the centaur motif, but he does fire arrows from his Buster Cannon. Skull Man looks awesome. On that alone, he's high on this list. On the surface, he's a combat bot who can fire off buster shots and summon an energy shield called the Skull Barrier, which is badass. Tomahawk Man's design is walking a fine line of cultural appropriateness. I don't think it's in the same category as the design of Oil Man, but folks should feel free to let me know in the comments. From a vibes tinted lens, I love this guy. He's built to be a warrior. He wields a silver tomahawk and fires razor feathers from his headdress. Like knights and samurai, hints for further up the list, Tomahawk Man reminds me of a Final Fantasy class. Top marks all around. Crash Man stages in space! Long before the Final Fantasy XVI Bahamut fight, I was slowly climbing into space as the Blue Bomber to take on Crash Man. And from a vibes perspective, that ticks an important box. He's got a nice design and a solid presence, and I was always intimidated by the way he would leap high into the air to rain missiles upon his foes. Cutman is, perhaps, a bit goofy looking compared to some of the other robot masters. His head is meant to resemble a pair of scissors. That said, his agile nature and ability to detach the blades from his head and hurl them at hapless foes, that makes him awesome. Pharaoh Man feels to me more like a wizard than a robot. He's originally designed to explore ancient ruins, and in his original appearance, he charges and fires a solar-powered shot at his foes. In Power Fighters, he can levitate, summon zombies, and create an eye-shaped shield, all of which is awesome. This is another robot master I could imagine as a Final Fantasy job. Metal Man feels to me like an upgrade of Cutman, and I like him for much the same reasons. He's got a saw blade on his head that he can hurl at his foes. Also, that red and yellow color scheme, striking. Slash Man is a Wolverine-looking motherfucker with descendants the likes of Slash Beast and Neon Tiger. Claws on his hands, claws on his feet, and porcupine quills off his head like the most dangerous dreadlocks. Slash Man is a simple concept packaged in a badass design, and I love it. Splash Woman is the first and only female robot master. And you might think, but she's a robot. They're all robots. Do robots really have gender? To which I might reply, gender is a social construct and the robot masters are social beings. She's built like a mermaid, which is a bit stereotypical, but it makes her an excellent swimmer and an expert in all sorts of maritime work. Also, she's got an amazing singing voice and wields a trident. She's like if Ariel became Queen of the Oceans instead of marrying Eric. Fireman started the motif of fire robots who have fire coming off their heads. Burn, Rooster, Flame, Stag, these guys owe a debt to the original. A simple concept, a simple design, and sometimes that's enough to get you into the top 10, top 7 even. Yamato Man is a samurai-based combat bot, again reminding me of Final Fantasy. He's clad in purple samurai armor, carries a spear, and is a martial arts expert. What's not to love? Snake Man isn't quite an anthropomorphic snake like the Mavericks, but he is the first robot master with an animal theme, so perhaps he's the godfather thereof. The head of the snake covers his head, a lot like a Power Ranger helmet, and the body of the snake trails down his back like a menacing green ponytail. It's a slick design that varies from the theme in an interesting way. Nightman is clad in dark blue armor and wields a massive spiked flail. His shield is capable of withstanding buster shots. He's noble, he's valiant, he's another example of an exemplary execution on a theme that is simply awesome. Shadow Man is a ninja robot. I like this guy for the same reasons I like the other robot masters who remind me of Final Fantasy jobs. He's a ninja and a robot. A ninja robot. He's fast, he's agile, he attacks with slide kicks and a shuriken. Like Cutman and Metal Man, he wears his weapon on his forehead. Shadow Man is another combat bot who showcases how leaning into a specific theme, packaged in a cool design, makes for a timeless character. Gemini Man is a personal vibe because I, too, am a Gemini. I've always liked the ability to make clones of oneself, like Multiple Man of the X-Men or Split Mushroom of Mega Man X. He's got mirror bright armor and fires a laser that bounces off solid surfaces. With this mirror theme, I've never been quite certain if the clones were meant to be illusions or solid, but both bodies take damage during the fight, so I'm going to assume that means they're solid. Gemini Man is a perfect execution on the theme of reflection and duplication. Super cool. I never beat Mega Man 2, and I'm pretty sure Quick Man is the reason why. First, there's his stage, which has those accursed light beams that obliterate the blue bomber on contact. Then, if you ever do get to this speedster, he zips around, hurling his boomerang with pinpoint accuracy. By modern standards, Quick Man is probably less scary than I remember, but that doesn't much matter to the vibes. He is speed, he is cunning, he is precision. Quick Man is an intimidating foe, one I have nothing but respect for. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your time. If you enjoyed the video, click like, maybe even subscribe. Furthermore, feel free to let me know what I missed, got wrong, or should have mentioned in the comments. Just remember the rubric. No debate, only vibes. He's clad in purple. He's clad in purple samurai armor, carries a spear, and is a martial He's clad in Serpal